Welcome to another RMSO Bigfoot podcast. This is Kelly Shaw bringing you a podcast about Anthony Mountain Goat Moffett. We've got Jenny, Derek, and Anthony here, and I'd like to start out by congratulating Derek. Our team has a biologist, and it's simply always been Brody Lewis, because he has the most university credit hours in biology. But now we have a scientist on our team. Derek accepted a new role, and his official title with the company that he is with is computer scientist.
Wow.
He has worked very hard getting his degree, and I want to congratulate him on his title of computer scientist, and I want to brag to the Bigfoot community. Not only do we have a biologist on this team, we now officially have a scientist. Congratulations, Derek.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that.
And the show tonight that we have planned for you, we've got a guest. We got Anthony Moffett from the Sawtooth National Forest Bigfoot Research Organization. Sorry, that's a mouthful right there. But we've been very interested in his research and been watching him for a while. And by the way, we started calling him a mountain goat about a year ago. So I'm RMSO has kind of nicknamed him that because you watch his videos, and he's probably the most in shape Bigfooter out there. And from watching his videos, I can tell you guys that Anthony, he's the real deal when it comes to Bigfooting. And we're happy to have him on the show tonight. We want to talk about some of his Bigfoot experiences. And I'd like to start off by how long have you been searching for Bigfoot, Anthony?
I would guess about, wow, almost since I was a child, a young man. But you know how it is. We get out there, we start living our lives, and so Bigfooting's not something you can always do full time. I've just been doing it full time for about the last 10 years, off and on, and then about the last 6 to 7 years, I would guess, more full time.
Now, I understand that there was something that got you interested in doing it full time. For a lot of people, it's like a Class B or C Bigfoot experience, someone that they know's had a Bigfoot experience. But from what I understand, you've actually seen a Bigfoot.
I had a couple of sightings when I were younger. The encounter that I had about 2 years ago, I didn't see it. I only heard them. I heard them hooping and howling and tree knocking and making all kinds of rackets. Some sounds I can't even describe. But I haven't had one of those really, really awesome sightings that we hear about on some of these reports. I wish I have, and that's what I'm out there trying to do. Now, I have hit some areas this last summer where if I would have stuck around, if I wouldn't have lost my nerve, I may have had one of those sightings.
Yeah, Jenny and I had the same experience where we had one that kept bull rushing the tree line for a couple of hours, and we actually, partway into this, while we were casting probably its footprints,
right,
we went up to check to see what kept bull rushing and stomping back and forth, and it moved away into the woods away from us and hid. You could hear it quietly going away. And when we finally gave up trying to find it, we go back down by the river where we were casting, letting it set up, and it bull rushed the tree line again and kept stomping back and forth. And maybe if we'd stuck around, maybe we would have got to see this thing. But when the sun went down, we just wanted to leave.
The mountains are a dangerous place to be when the sun goes down. At least you had someone with you. One thing I wanted to say about what we were just talking about is sometimes what I'm learning is the fear. Like I said, when I lost my nerve a couple times and fled the area, the fear was on my part. The activity that I had up in that hidden valley this last summer where the tree knock happened, I just happened to be shooting video, which was awesome, and picked up that tree knock. When the bluff charge happened, I wasn't videoing, and that's another lesson I learned. When you get activity, keep the camera running. Don't shut it off. Um, um, but what I was going to say about what we were just talking about, I can't remember.
Well, you were talking about when you got bull rushed and had some knocks and heard some vocalizations.
Well, yeah. If you know, the fear was on my part. The knock. This is what I believe happened. The knock was area. I was coming back through, and the bluff charge was more than likely a distraction for the one that knocked. And I shouldn't have had a reason to be so fearful. But man, I was way up in there all alone, and I did it. That bluff charge was it was spooky, and I fled the area. But you know, you learn as you go. And
when it happens to you, you realize that it's an intimidation. You know, it's really trying to intimidate you with its strength and its weight and its size when it pulls one of those.
Yeah, and it felt intimidating, and that's where my fear had come from. But
I would like to mention to the viewers a little bit about the area you Bigfoot in. He Bigfoots in the Sawtooth National Forest, and that borders a couple of other national forests. That area in Idaho is the largest contiguous wildlife area in the lower 48. Death Valley area is the only place that rivals it, but when you're talking about forest type wilderness, it's the largest. Over 4.2 million acres. And that's 4 times as large as most regular-sized eastern states, just to give you an idea. Anthony's research location.
And it's all mountains. It's all mountain range, and it's tough country. And that's one of the reasons, you know, when you introduced me, I work on fitness, because if I didn't maintain a certain fitness level, I couldn't cover the ground that I cover out there. You know, I have to carry gear and myself, and if I just let myself go, I wouldn't be able to put in the footwork that I put in out there. I just wouldn't have the energy or the physical ability to do it. It's tough out there.
I have about an 8-mile limited days about what I really care to do in the day I'm in the mountains. I mean, people that run on the beaches and stuff at lower altitudes and on flat ground and stuff, you know, you're thinking, well, that's not very far. But you get up in high altitude and you're traversing steep terrain, and you're breathing the oxygen at 8,000 feet. It kicks your butt to hike 8 miles.
Yeah. Well, I sometimes will cover 20 or more miles in a day. And I'll sometimes find sign in the valleys. And the valleys are over 7,000 feet above sea level themselves. Right. And, you know, that's what I do. If I find some sign when I'm cutting through a valley, I then look for places in the mountains around the valley, say like what I like to call hidden valleys and things, to further look for signs, or, hey, if you're lucky, even a sighting. And that's what I do.
Well, that's exciting. You're getting into places where people can't get into in a vehicle, a four-wheeler, a motorcycle. I mean, you're limited to on foot, horse, or dropping in on a helicopter.
Yeah, well, and you'll find that in the Sawtooth, most of your trail systems that lead into these valleys are non-motorized. So you don't have a choice. You can go on horseback, anything non-motorized, but you're not allowed to take motorized vehicles even into these places. So if you want to get into them, it's either horseback or hike.
So, hey, I got a question for you, Anthony.
Okay.
You mentioned that there was a couple of things that had happened when you were a youngster that kind of got you into this Bigfooting. Can you elaborate a little bit onto that? What exactly went down?
Yeah, well, I think I was 11 or 12 years old. There were a couple men that come by the house, and one of them was dating my older sister. And it was after dark. You know, back in those days, we did everything outside. We was a bunch of the neighborhood kids. We were all running around playing hide and seek and things, you know. these two guys come over to the house, and they were shaken up. They were shooken up pretty good, and they said they saw, and they didn't say Bigfoot, but they described it, and of course the description they gave is of a Bigfoot. They said this thing jumped the fence and crossed the road right in front of their car, and they had just they were just out in the back country. Who knows with those two what they were doing, but that's where they were at. Now here's the odd thing is another part of their stories. They said it had deer antlers on its head, and you know, they wouldn't talk about it any more than that. I tried to get more out of them, but they just didn't want to talk about it. And over the years, as I've thought about that, I was just kind of guessing what they probably saw was a Bigfoot carrying a deer, and they saw the deer antlers sticking up, and that's why they said it had deer antlers on its head. There was a time, and when I was a kid, people would drive down the road and they'd say, "There goes Tony," because I ran everywhere. You know, I had friends that were 5 miles this way, 5 miles that way, so I ran everywhere just to get to a buddy's house. And one day I decided to cut through the forest to get to another buddy's house that lived on this lake, and it was probably about a 5-mile run through the forest. And I come across 2 large bucks, and they were just, if you were a hunter, these were trophy bucks. I mean, they were just huge. Their racks were just fully grown out, and they were really, really beautiful animals. But they were staring each other down, and I know sometimes deer will do that during rut, you know. But this wasn't rut season. In fact, I think it was early August. But they wouldn't move. And here's this young man. I'm somewhere between 12 and 14. I can't remember exactly the year this happened. But I come up this rise, and they're just standing there, and I'm within feet of them, and they're not moving. And this is unusual. And I throw up my hands. I yell. I'm trying everything I can do to get these deer to take off, and they won't move. And there was an acorn tree just to my left, and this thing was huge. And so I picked up one of the acorns. You know, it was still in its shell, so it was a big green shell, and I tossed it and smacked one of the deer in the side with it. And they still didn't move. And so I'm just standing there, and finally they turn away from each other. I just stepped back a little bit as one of the deer turned to keep it from hitting me. And they both turned and were gone. And you know, I wasn't very big, and these things were bigger than me. It was a spooky situation. But I turned to look, and I looked up on one of the branches of this acorn tree, and there was a dark, shadowish figure up on the branch of this tree. And I didn't stick around to observe much more than that. The barbed wire fence that was in front of me, I dove over it and took off running to my buddy's house as hard as I could, and I never talked about it again. I didn't tell any of my friends about it or anything at the time. But I cannot swear that I saw a Bigfoot that day. But when I think back upon it, it is a possibility. That's what was going on there.
Well, I'd have to agree with you in that the fact that you have two deer that are standing there like deer in the headlights, standing there frozen solid. Obviously, they're staring at what they perceive as a predator.
Something had them pinned down, you know, and even me, a person. I mean, I walked so close to these deer, these 2 large bucks, I could have just stuck out my arm and touched them. You know, I mean, I was within feet of them, yelling at them, throwing my hands up in the air and everything, and they just would not move. They were frozen in place. And I've seen dogs do that when I've been out, and when I've had dogs with me out on the trail in the past, Bigfooting. They'll just freeze up. If there's a Bigfoot around, they'll freeze. They won't move.
That's scary.
That's a great story.
Well, now that you've got older and you're actively searching for Bigfoot, I mean, what comes across your mind when you find trackway with footprints like this?
Well, first of all, you know, your head goes on a swivel and you start looking around to make sure you know, nothing's coming at you. That track right there that you just showed me has to be the best one that I've ever found. I find a lot of tracks that have the right shape, but this one just has, and it might be that loose, soft gravel that it's in. I don't know.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, when you find stuff in the hard Rocky Mountain soil, and
yeah.
I'll get to one of your other footprints. I mean, you sit and you're like, hey, it's Bigfoot shaped and everything, but it's not these perfect footprints that you find on a beach of Northern California lake or something.
Yeah.
And like this one here. I
Yeah,
mean,
and if you look at the toes on that one, they almost seem rounded off more like it would be a boot, but there's no boots out there that are that wide. And if you look at the way it almost looks like it could be a double step from a bear, but that would have to be one large bear. That's actually the Cape Horn Lakes area, and there's bear in the area, but there's no bear. I took a picture of that and called it a potential track of something, because you can't quite get what it is from the shape. It is a very large track. That's about the best you can do with that particular track right there.
So to
I
put
think
it
it
into
looks great.
perspective, Anthony, about how long is your foot? How big is your foot right there?
I think that
14
shoe's a
inches?
10. I think that shoe's a 10.
That makes it a 12-inch foot with
12
a size 10. Yes.
So that just puts it in perspective that you're looking at a 16-inch print there, or really close to
If I remember right, and I always measure my tracks, that was somewhere between 14 and 16. It might have been 14 and a half. I'm not sure.
So
I never write them down.
To think of the size of that bear, if that in fact was an actual bear
Yeah.
that put that there, that is a monster.
Well, and it's way too big of a bear for the area. I mean, you guys know Idaho. That's around the Stanley, Idaho area right there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we go through Stanley when we go into Deadwood.
You know, I haven't Bigfooted Deadwood yet, but that's one place I really want to get into. You know, from where I live in Haley, just up to Stanley, there's so much, like you talked about early in the show, there's so much mountain range out there, so many places to go in Bigfoot. I just haven't had to go any further than that. You know?
Well, and if you're finding stuff like those footprints and getting the type of vocalizations and wood knocks, I mean, why would you go anywhere else while you're getting action in that area?
Well, that's just it, and I have a lot more pictures of tracks than the ones that you just pulled up. My photographs are disorganized.
Well, I'll show the viewers how to get to your YouTube, so they can
Awesome.
go check you out there, because I know 99% of the stuff's in your videos, and we just love watching your videos, by the way.
Yeah, they're fun to make.
Well, Anthony, I'm just going to throw it out there. I just appreciate that we've actually come across somebody that is willing to run up and down the mountains like we are. You know, there's so many people out there that are these couch watchers that are like, what do you expect to find from your front living room, dude?
Yeah, and they have a lot of opinions.
Out there running up and down. I agree. They got a lot of opinion, but no experience on running up and down a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there's a lot of people out there that don't Bigfoot, but they really like to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like armchair quarterbacks. I mean, if they could actually text or call their quarterback of the Denver Broncos and tell Peyton Manning, you know, how to play the game. But we do love the feedback from viewers.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've got Anthony's YouTube up here. Go subscribe to him. Go watch some of his videos. He's one of our favorite Bigfooters out there.
I appreciate that. I do put in a lot of footwork. I do enjoy doing it. And, you know, one of the reasons I almost stopped making videos, but I had so many people that tell me they cannot get out into the outdoors, and my videos take them into the outdoors. And that's why you'll see wildlife, you'll see scenery, and many different things in my videos, because I'm trying to share my experience. I'm trying to share the habitat so people get an understanding of what I'm doing out there and what the habitat looks like. And Idaho, especially the Sawtooth National Forest, is perfect habitat. We have so many mountain lakes and streams, the wildlife, our forest, the vegetation. It is a perfect domicile for Sasquatches to live. And that's one of the reasons I make the videos, so people can't say, you know, you're not actually doing what you say you're doing. I'm providing scenery, wildlife, and adventure for those people that can't get out and get out into the forest like they would like to. And you'd be surprised at how many people I've had tell me that they appreciate my videos just for that reason, because they're not capable of getting out there. And that makes me feel good. It gives me a reason to keep making the videos, because I could go out and Bigfoot and not make any videos at all. There's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah, we started out that way, not making videos Bigfooting, and when we finally did get around to actually making one, the feedback we got from people, they just loved the fact that we're taking them somewhere where people are seeing Bigfoot. They're getting to see wildlife. I mean, some of these people can get out there, but they live on the East Coast. They live around the world, and
yeah, that's true.
They can't afford to actually come here, so they're getting to see a piece of the world that they normally couldn't, and they're seeing where Bigfoot perhaps lives. We do a lot of Bigfooting in Idaho. We're usually Bigfooting on the east side of Idaho from you, and once in a while we do make it up into the Stanley area and stuff.
Well, I've heard
we're usually on the south side of the state.
Yeah, and I've heard good things about that area all the way up through McCall and north of McCall, also on the east side, or that would be the west side, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's so many Bigfoot sightings. I've got a stack of about 60 Bigfoot sightings from central and south Idaho, and those are just the ones that I have collected, and hopefully I can make it to each one of those one day. But we do know that you're in a Bigfoot sighting hot spot, and putting yourself out there and getting into the places you do, I believe that you're one of the Bigfooters that may get lucky and get that footage that everybody's looking for.
I keep hoping, and this year I'm adding some night vision to my videos. Now I have an Equinox Z. It's a $300 night vision. It does record. The downside to it is it doesn't pick up audio. So I'm going to have to strap a flashlight to my camera for any audio that may be going on, my day camera. Now it's supposed to be a nice camera. What got me interested in it is Sportsman's Warehouse was sold out of them, and I thought, why are these things selling out? So I went online and looked at it, and for the price, it seems to be a good quality. Now it's infrared, it's not thermal, but when you're shooting night video with this infrared camera, you're supposed to be able to go up to about 160 yards, and you don't really need much more than that. So. If it's not the best piece of equipment out there, but I'm going to try to make it work. And
well, I'd like to give my opinion on the difference between FLIR and IR. FLIR's the high-tech thing, and there's all this excitement and stuff about it.
Right.
But you get within 50 yards of a Bigfoot, and you get that its heat signature on FLIR, or you get an IR on it, and you get an IR spotlight on it.
Right.
The human eye is going to recognize that that's a Bigfoot on the IR,
right?
And on the FLIR, it's just a heat source. It could be anything. Yeah. I, for one, will always carry an IR, because if I get a Bigfoot on it, that will prove to people more that it's a Bigfoot than a heat signature.
Well, what turned me on to the infrared was one of Les Stroud's episodes of Finding Bigfoot. He used both. He had a thermal here, and he had an infrared over here. The image on the infrared, you could tell what it was. When you were looking at through his therm camera, all you saw was a heat signature, a blotch. And I thought to myself, well, it looks like to me, I don't know why everyone's using therms when it looks like to me, infrared is the way to go.
See, I love using therm, but it's just, I think it's over, there's too much excitement over it, because it really doesn't accomplish what you need. I mean, the great thing about therm is you could be using a therm and find that heat signature, and then you know where to direct the IR and the IR spotlights. To me, it's a spotting device.
Good idea.
I don't think anybody's really going to buy a therm imager of a Bigfoot, even if he's 10 feet away.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I want to go back to your pictures and show you some. I want to show you a picture that one of your viewers sent us. I've been telling people that you were going to be on this podcast, and so people started sending me screenshots that they've gotten in the background off of some of your videos.
Okay.
And I'd like to show you this one. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a Bigfoot. Your viewer thinks it's a Bigfoot, and we know you're in a Bigfoot location finding great footprints, like the one we didn't really talk about. This one in the ice that looks about 14 inches long.
Yeah, I believe that was about the measurement of that one. Yeah.
But can you guys see my mouse?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this could very well be an illusion, but you know, that looks like a Bigfoot peeking over a boulder. Yeah. Do you even recall where this may have happened?
I know exactly where that's at. That's out of the same video of the strange white face up in the ridges video. And when I was, and I'm trying to remember, I think I put this video in. This video was actually shot when I was coming back out of there. And I did see something up there. Of course, you can see by the tree here, this dark, huge dark figure right there. And I believe,
right here.
Yeah, this whole thing that just, it's a stump, but from where I was at down the hill, because this is zoomed in pretty far, it looked like something there. So that's why I zoomed up, I believe, because I saw this image in the front by the tree here. But what that is back there, it's hard to say. Now, this area was interesting. There were a lot of boulders, which you can see in some of the video. There's a lot of dens and things up there. And that's a pretty steep mountainside. I actually, my wife was with me, Jen was with me when we gone up to shoot this video, and I left her for a while because I wanted to keep working my way across the mountainside. She, of course, was ready to head down the mountain, so we did separate for a little while. I did see something was up in this area, and that's why I zoomed up in the area. But that back there behind the boulder that looks like it could be a face, I don't recall if I were seeing that. I was seeing some dark figures in many different areas up there.
Well, hey, if you viewers want to go and check out his video where they captured this screenshot in, it's Bigfoot hiking, Wolverines, and dens on Anthony Moffett's YouTube, and I believe it's Anthony Mountain Goat Moffett's YouTube now. And hey, I'm really interested if you get back into this place again this next season. I would like to see a photograph of this so that, you know.
I plan to go back up there as soon as I can. Now, I'm guessing where I was at where I videoed the white face up there, if that's what it is. It looks like a face. That's all we know at this point.
Yeah, I've seen it. It looks like almost chiseled stone, but it's in a tree, and I will go to it. I've got it here, right here where the mouse is circling.
Well, what I see there is it's maybe standing back there, looking around the tree, watching Jen and I. Now, earlier I did see some movement up there, so that's what started me shooting video up on those ridges. But that's one of the things I plan to do this spring. That's probably close to 10,000 feet above sea level up there. I'll have to wait for the snow to melt. I'll work my way back up there. I'll shoot video of those ridges up there again, particularly that spot there, and also the area with the dark figure that we just looked at a few minutes ago. But yes,
this white face has showed up in another one of your videos too. I mean, this isn't the only place it's been spotted.
Well, not that white face. I mean, I suppose it could be. They're many, many miles apart in mountain ranges, but.
Okay. It's a different location, but yeah, look at
this picture you're showing right here. If you were able to go left and up, there is a white face up in the tree. Now that blew me away when I got home and uploaded that video and saw the white face in that one.
Am I circling the correct?
No. Well, okay, I do see that one there. That one I'd forgotten about. That was
see. There's a darker one right there, but you know, not saying it's Bigfoot, but it's kind of amazing. You know, you get a couple of different videos and they show up in it.
This photo here is out of my encounter video, when I had my encounter. And if you go to the right, you see the big black tree peaker peeking around the tree right there. If you come up a little bit, go to your right, go to your right, go to your right.
Right there.
Nope, go on to your right.
Him?
A little more. Come down now. Right there. You see, just to the right of the tree. Your cursor's on the left. Right there's his face. You can see eyes, nose. And now that on the left side, the other side of the tree, that's his arm. And that may be another one down there near its feet. Now, I have a video where that arm is sticking out from the tree, and you can see the hand. And what he does, he takes that hand, it's out like this, and I think he's trying to block one from coming out, and he moves his hand up to the tree and has his hand on the tree, and his elbow is sticking out the other side of the tree. Now, that's out of my encounter video from 2 years ago. And like I said, I did not see any of them, and there may be many reasons why that I didn't see them. I was actually focusing on the area with my vision to the right of there in that thicker brush is where I was focusing. And that may
Well,
be...
you were focusing in this area right here.
That thick brush is where I was looking, and also where I was mainly shooting video. And I only got about 30 seconds of video because before the encounter happened, my camera was doing flip-flops. In fact, I wasn't sure I could shoot any video at all. And I know people have talked about when you have a Bigfoot encounter, it can do weird things to your camera. That may be what happened here. It may have just been my battery was low. I'm sure the battery was getting to the point where it was low. But just after I shot the video that pic come out of, the camera did die. And now I felt really alone because the camera is usually my companion out there.
Right.
And you know what's really spooky is where the white face. Now, if you go watch the video of Bigfoot tree peeker, a Bigfoot encounter, a tree peeker knocks and other sounds, that's the video that pic is out of. When you pause as I'm turning the camera back to myself, you'll see the white face up in the tree. Now, I had to walk underneath that white face to get out of there. I had to walk through a bunch of deadfall to get out of there. I had no idea the white face was up in the tree at the time. But after I went back and I studied my video, I actually walked right underneath that white, not that white face there, not that one. There's a different white face in my encounter video, and I had to walk directly underneath it. Okay.
This one right here, I mean, did you actually get to see what was there, or was this?
No, I never saw that. I don't know that it's interesting. I mean, it looks like a shadow with eyes. It actually looks like it could be a Sasquatch peeking out from behind those pines there, but no, I didn't see it. Now, this is an area that doesn't get a lot of traffic. This is one of the areas I plan to hit with my night vision this year. This is actually leading to a huge boxed-in basin. This area up there, it's like a tundra up there. It's mostly flat and a lot of grass. It's probably about 300 to 400 yards in circumference, surrounded by, it's boxed in by mountain ridges, and as you're going in, you come out of the tree line and into this huge, big, open, boxed-in basin. That's one of the areas I plan to camp this year and do some night vision video. But this is actually leading up to there. This is probably about a mile before you get into the forest that actually leads up into that boxed-in basin. It's on the way there. It's probably about a 5-mile hike to get into that basin.
Well, if that is indeed a Bigfoot, that looks like glowing eyes. I mean, it's standing in some conifer trees, and you know, conifer trees have needles. They don't have these two big, nice leaves that look like they're glowing where the eyes should be on that. So that's really interesting. If you get back in there and you can get a comparison of that, that's. I mean,
well, that's an interesting area right there. I guided an older couple back in there about midsummer. They didn't know that area was back there, and you know, they were pretty far along in years, so it took us. We didn't get back off the trail until about 7:30 p.m. But they made it back. They made it back there, and I believe that. You know, they were Mormons, and we were talking about Bigfoot. That's actually why I took them on this hike, because they were interested in the Bigfoot subject, and I asked them what their opinion of Bigfoot was, and of course theirs, based off their religion, was the what is it? The lost one of the lost tribes of Israel or something is what she had brought up.
I've heard that angle too many times. Right.
There's Jenny.
Do you got anything you would like to ask Jenny?
No, I just saw her picture come up. She hasn't said anything yet, so I thought maybe.
I was just listening. It was very interesting, and I think Where You Bigfoot is beautiful. We drive through there a couple of times a year when we're going here or there, and it is just beautiful.
It is, and you know, if I were not doing Bigfoot research, I would be out there anyway, because it's just what I love. I mean, if I had a cabin out there, you guys wouldn't be able to talk to me because that's where I'd be. You know, it is an amazing, amazing area, and most people around the country have no idea how beautiful Idaho is. You know, they come across it on I-80, you know, down south by Twin Falls and go through Boise, and they have no idea if they would just drive a little further north what they would find. And it's amazing country. But where you guys are at, I've been through Utah many times. I've always was just wowed going through Utah. It's beautiful, beautiful country.
Yeah, you're really.
It's a lot of the.
Go ahead.
Jen, go for it.
You're correct in saying when people are on the freeway, they think Idaho is big and plain because that's pretty much all you see right there. But if you just get off there a little bit, Idaho is beautiful. We love it there. It's an awesome place to spend time.
Well, like I said earlier, Idaho has the largest contiguous wilderness in the lower 48.
Yeah.
Over 4.5 million acres, and if you include Sawtooth National Forest, because it connects to all of that up on the north, I mean, you're talking pretty close to 5 million acres of untouched wilderness.
If the forest fires stop, there's plenty of just absolutely great habitat out there. But the forest fires, they've got to stop. I mean, this last summer we were okay. We just had a couple small ones, but the year before that, I thought Idaho was gone. I mean, the fires were just crazy. They took millions of acres. Unbelievable. I actually learned something recently from another local guy that I just met 2 years ago when we had those big fires, and supposedly this was in the newspaper. 3 firefighters saw a Bigfoot sitting on a burned up log.
And what part of Idaho was that?
Just right around here.
Oh my goodness.
So right around the Ketchum area?
Yeah. Well, between here and Ketchum, we had the fires were from Haley all the way to Ketchum, north of Ketchum. I mean, it was crazy. But I didn't know it. I didn't see it in the paper. But this guy said it was in the paper that 3 firefighters saw a Bigfoot sitting on a log. The fire, everything. You know how that goes. When a forest fire is going, everything has to leave the area. They have to move. They have to migrate, and that's probably what was going on there. He was migrating out of the area that he'd stayed in, and that's all I was told. They saw it sitting on a log.
Jenny and I come back from Salmon when 100,000 acre fire was going, and it was like a volcano. It looked like a volcano, and then we stopped in Custer, that ghost town of Custer. It was raining, burnt twigs and ash and stuff was raining on us, and I don't know. It seemed like something out of a bad nightmare.
Oh yeah,
something that you would see on TV, and we just kept looking at each other like, gosh.
We, here in Haley, we were under so much smoke you couldn't go outside. It was like sticking your head over a campfire.
Right.
Smoke was that thick, and we had to live with that for almost a month, and it was crazy. I mean, you couldn't go outside. I mean, you just run the risk of, killing your lungs with all that smoke if you did. And we could watch the skyscraper flames on the mountains, and it's they're used to it in California, I guess, but it was unbelievable to live through. In fact, we almost had to evacuate. They did evacuate some places in Ketchum and Mid-Valley, and I think we were next on the list, but fortunately they managed to put it out.
So do you think that impeded the Bigfooting in the area? You think the Bigfoot evacuated the area, or do you think that helped the situation, like you were saying?
Well, they didn't have to go far. They just crossed the highway and go into another mountain. I'm sure it does affect it somewhat. I suspect that the encounter that I had was part of that. It was a relocation. Right. I have a lot of theories. I mean, I'd spent 4 months in there going all over the place, finding tracks. It's also possible at some point in time I got close, and this was they decided to turn the tables on me and confronted me that day. You don't know. But that was the year we had those fires, and just further north on the other side of the mountain, those areas were all burned up. So if anything had to relocate south, that was right in the path.
What about you, Derek? Do you have any questions or curiosities about his Bigfoot area?
No, no. The only thing I'd like to throw out there is looking forward to meeting up with you sometime, Anthony. And
Hey, I hope you
some of these
guys
mountains.
do. I hope you guys do come on out here and let's go do some Bigfooting together. You know, I'll show you that encounter spot. If you want to see it, I'll take you up and let you see that TP structure that you have a picture of. It's old. It's been there for a long time. You know, we can't be positive what made it. Now, I have been back in there a couple of times. Yep, you're looking for it now. I saw it a few minutes ago.
There's
There it
one
is.
picture of it. I
Yeah.
think we've got 3 pictures of it.
Well, I
It
took
looks
several.
like a shelter.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. You know, of all the places I go, I've never found one like that. Now, I can tell you, it's hard to get up there, but it's not impossible. The lower valley down below, hunters do hunt there. I didn't find any shotgun shells or any human activity up there at all. I think most people wouldn't want to go up there. I did take Rob Bizzuto up there, and him and I did do a little bit more searching in the valley. The valley's behind there and to the left. There were places where several large things laid down and laid the grass over. We did find some potential tracks. We found some tree twists back in there, which was interesting. Some of these trees, you know, were 8-10 inches around, and it took something strong to bend those and twist them the way they were. That's a place I'd like to put some tree cams. That's a different. I have several hidden valleys. Those places all need tree cams put in them. But I could probably take you up to see that. It's actually not that far out of the way. There's a road that's probably just you probably have to take a 2.5 mile hike before you have to climb the mountain to get up into that hidden valley from the road. That's actually not real far out of the way, but its general location just isn't an area where most people would even consider going. I actually got lost. I had to find a way up there. I ended up finding some old goat trails, and is how we ended up going in. And now that I know the way in, it's much easier to get in there now than it was the first time. Man, it was a lot of work trying to figure out how to get in there originally. But once we found the way in, it's not so bad.
This photo looks a little hazy, like one of the fire years.
Actually, it's not. I think it's just either the camera or just the sun. That mountain over there is actually very green. That's a beautiful area. That's also around Stanley.
Maybe just a high pressure, keeping some of the clouds a little bit lower.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you know, you get that haze off in the distance. It was. I believe that might have been September, but it was hot. But I do know that whole section of mountain over there was lush green.
What's your favorite time of year to Bigfoot?
Well, I know I find more tracks the earlier I can get out in the year. If the snow melts quick and I can get into places, you know, the ground's softer. It's still a little wet, and I find a lot of tracks and tree breaks. I have this one area where there were tree breaks just up and down this stream. I found quite a few tracks in the area too, and the only thing that I could think of was deeper into the mountain. There was still, it goes up probably 10,000 feet, a little more. There was still, you know, 1-2 foot of snow up there. They migrate out down, and just like the bears will do, they'll come out of these mountains to get out of the snow. Yeah. And get down in the valleys, and they were just running up and down this stream plane and snapping trees. It's just what it looked like.
This one here looks like you ran out of plaster. This one looks larger than the plaster you had on hand.
That's exactly what happened there. I had 2 bags of plaster. One of them I busted when I was mixing up the plaster. And the other one, I just poured it in there and spread it around the best I could. I left it there. I covered it with dirt, and I went back the next day and pulled it out. And it did set, but it didn't set up well enough to make it out. So
Yeah, it's pretty rough. You're trying to cut weight when you're bigfooting because you need to carry your water, your supplies, maybe a lunch or whatever. And you know, people are like, you know, how come you didn't have enough casting material? We each carry about a pound of casting material when we go out, and we've been in situations where the print was so deep that we couldn't fill the cavity that it made.
Yeah, and I usually have. It depends, but probably about 30 pounds of gear on me, and that's without plaster. So when I add plaster to that, I'm starting to get heavy, you know. And you know, there's been many times when I just don't carry plaster. I don't want to carry the extra weight, and I'll regret it. I'll find a track. You know, I can shoot video, take pics of it, but you know, I was carrying it a lot early in the year last year, and then it got hotter and I stopped carrying it.
We did something. One of the areas that we have found a lot of footprints, and we've casted like 3 or 4 back in that area. We get back in there and we stash our casting kit, and so.
Good idea.
So when we go back into that area, we usually don't carry casting material because we have some back there. So if we see something on the way back, we'll pick it up and use it, so we don't have to pack it every time. I know it gets expensive if you're making caches of casting material everywhere, but I mean, it really isn't that much of an expense. But
plaster doesn't cost much. That's the good thing about it, but it is heavy.
Well, the dental cast is a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, I started buying that art plaster. You can pick it up at hobby shops.
We use that also.
Yeah.
I like how it's waterproof when it sets up.
I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me. I didn't know.
Oh, it's microwavable too.
Really?
Yeah, so if you need to microwave your Bigfoot cast, it's microwavable.
Nice. Well, you know, that picture you showed me a few minutes ago, it was starting to rain. And that's why I covered that with dirt. I covered it over with dirt, and I didn't want to stay out there in the rain. That one there, it was starting to rain. So I covered it up with dirt, and that's why I went back for it the next day. I didn't want to sit out there in the rain waiting for it to set up.
Yeah, I always carry a plastic trash bag in each one of my backpacks.
Right.
Because, I mean, there's endless uses for them, especially if you get caught in a survival situation. But I've used it on a couple of occasions where we've laid it over a cast that we've done. Well, it rains because, you know, in the high mountain areas, it can be sunshiny and warm, and the news guy, when you left in the morning, says 0 chance of precipitation, and you get up there on top of the mountain and it pours for 2 hours. It happens all the time.
Well, I got stuck on a mountain this year in a hail and rainstorm. I was trying to stay as dry as I could. I was underneath the best tree I could find. I'd been looking around for a tree. I was already getting soaked, so finally I just had to settle for what I could find, and I stayed underneath that tree for about an hour. Finally, the hail stopped, and I was about 5 miles in. The hail stopped. And I was probably about 9,500 feet above sea level. The hail finally stopped, and I said, you know what, I have to go, and I left and took off down the trail and had gotten out of there. The next day I bought a lightweight rain outfit. You know, it rained so much last spring. It was unbelievable. It was like we lived in north of Seattle or something. You know, it just rained almost every day, and it just wouldn't stop. Half the summer was lost this year due to rain. This last year.
Yeah, the first half, and then it dried right up.
Yep. And we have a ton of snow this year. I mean, we must have just several feet. So we're going to have a lot of ground moisture this year. It shouldn't be too dry out this year. There's just a ton of snow, and you know, it's early February yet, so I'm sure we'll get some more snow. You know, all the skiers are happy because we just have so much snow this year. We have 4 or 5 different ski mountains, and you know, and that's what most people live here for. When I tell people I enjoy these mountains over summer, they don't get it, because they live here to ski, you know, and they don't understand that someone could actually enjoy these mountains when there's no snow on them, and it's kind of weird. But you know, they're all happy. We just have tons of snow this year, so it should be you know, fire season should be kind of low this year, and it should be good and green out there. It should make for a great Bigfooting season.
Well, we hope you find more of this and find who's leaving these behind.
Well, that area right there, I tell you what, I can do more searching in there. I can tell you the way that track is heading. It leads across this little open sagebrush area. It's probably the size of a football field. And then you hit the tree line, you drop down the hill, and there's a nice stream down there. And I've been on the other side of that stream. In fact, that track's what sent me over there. And there is a teepee structure back there. It's about four poles. And, you know, it's been there for a long time. So I've looked at it. I've shot video of it. I can't really tell what made it. I didn't find tracks over there in that area. But I have done a little bit of searching around the area, but there's more that I could do in that area yet.
I'd have to say, just to point it out for any of you viewers out there, that footprint right there that he found, that literally is hitting the lottery in Rocky Mountains for a freaking footprint.
Yeah.
It's hard to find them in this great a condition.
You're not going to find a more pristine footprint than that in the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah. And you can even see a deer track in it. After it had gone through, a deer had come through and stepped in it.
Yeah, there is. I didn't notice that.
Well, I tell you, that's what it felt like when I found that one. It felt like I hit the lottery because I'll find tracks that fit the profile, but they're just not quite as distinct looking as that particular one there.
Please
there's a lot of conditions that have got to come together for you to get a great footprint like that. Usually I don't know, in our years of Bigfooting, they cognizantly try not to leave tracks, in my opinion, and so once in a while they screw up and you get a good one like this. But a lot of times we'll find a trackway, and I'll be like heeing and hawing over it and all this doubt in my head, and then you'll follow the tracks and you'll get to a spot where it leaves something like this, and then you're like, yeah.
Now there's a trail not too far from where I found this track. It was sometime last summer. I was heading up this trail, and there was this old couple coming down. And I don't know how we got onto the subject, but they told me there were some large tracks further up the trail in the trail. And so I'm watching the trail as I'm going up, and I did find these tracks. They were 18 inches. Now this is not one of those. This one I believe was, I'm trying to remember, 14.5 or 16.5 inches. I think 14.5 on this one. And 8 inches wide at the toes there, 8.5 inches wide.
It looks greater than 14 compared to your foot there.
Yeah, it's big. That 18-inch one I found was right on the trail. I mean, right on the trail. It was just dirt. But that old couple said they saw some, and I would guess them in their 60s. They saw odd-looking large tracks in the trail up there, and I did find them. And I thought, wow, and that was actually not too far from where that track right there was found.
So tell me, Anthony, did you at least cast that track?
No. Here's the kicker. I left my plaster in the car.
Murphy's Law.
Man, and that's one day, and I tell you, I went back the next day to cast that track, and it was washed out. I couldn't find it. It had rained. In fact, I was going down to my car, and this was probably 3.5 to 4 miles in. And so when I went back, and after I shot that video, I went on up the trail, and then I came back, and I said, well, you know, I'm going to go back to my car and get the plaster. It started pouring down rain. The next day I went back, and I could either I just didn't find it or it washed out, one of the two. But it poured down rain, and that track is one track that I'm kicking myself for not getting plaster into it.
The very first track that we found similar to this that had the great toes, the great shape and everything, and it was very deep in some soft soil like this, we had some of that great stuff foam. We didn't have plaster because we'd never casted before, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, use the insulation foam, blah, 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 blah. It works great and stuff. And so, rookie mistake, we'd never tested it ourselves, and we casted the footprint, and that stuff just does not stop expanding. So it ruined everything. It turned the toes into a boot, and yeah, it expanded an inch every direction. It expanded an extra inch.
It does. It just goes every which way.
Yeah, so we only use plaster now.
I can tell you this, Kelly. That ground isn't that soft. Me walking across that rock, I wouldn't even leave a small indentation in it. It really isn't that soft right there. It's not, and that's what's really. I knew this was a heavy animal because of the deepness of the impression.
Right.
But actually, it's not that soft. It really isn't. It's not that soft right there. It's kind of hard. But that is the best one that I would have to say I've found so far.
So
well, it's awesome that you got some evidence of it at least.
Actually, I do have another. I don't think I sent it to you. I do have another track that I found. This one's in dirt, and you can actually see the big toe in that one, and then what looks like the 4 toes beside it. That one's actually leading up a hill. Jen and I were trying to find our way into this one lake, and we didn't know that there was a trail down the road that cuts through the willows, and you can take a trail to get back to this lake. So we went up this mountain, and it ended up, I mean, it was steep and long, and we finally got up there, and we knew that we just couldn't keep going, so we ended up turning around and coming back. But that's where I found this other track that I'm talking about. And I think I found it in my photos after I'd sent you these pictures here, and I wish I would have sent you that one. I could send it to you some other time just so you could take a look at it.
All right. Hey, you were talking about you're going to start utilizing game cameras this year. We keep about a dozen of them out in the field at all times. We really love using them. Everybody says that Bigfoot probably detects the IR. We also think that's the case, but everything makes a mistake, so we're not going to throw in the towel on those. So do you have plans on utilizing those this year?
Well, I don't have a single game camera. There's many places I would put one, and in the future, yes, when I acquire some game cams, I will use them. But right now, no. It's just during the day I'll be using my camera, at night I'll be using that infrared for now.
Hey, anybody wants to help with Bigfoot research, please get a hold of Anthony Moffett and send him a game camera. He needs a cam in those areas. We left some game cameras in Deadwood for a year. We spaced them off. And
anything interesting?
Bunch of moose
wildlife.
and
Elk.
we captured that moose and that fox that one night by that carcass. We lucked out and found a deer carcass to put the game camera on.
Oh, nice.
For 4 or 5 days, and we caught some interesting wildlife and a lot of the birds that we didn't know ate meat. I mean, blue jays and stuff were coming in and eating off the carcass. So,
wow. Yeah, I didn't know they do that either.
We learned a lot about different wildlife and stuff. Was hoping we'd get lucky and a Bigfoot would come into it.
Yeah. That's all you can do and that's the whole thing with Bigfooting. And just like Derek talked about a little while ago, I've equated having a Bigfoot sighting to hitting the lottery. You know, as much time as I spend out in the mountains, and my wife Jen goes with me on weekends, she's out there with me. You know, and unless you find a track, and I used to do this a lot. I start doubting my own sanity. I'm like, you're out here looking for something that don't exist, man. And then I'll find a track, you know. But it's just really, you're really lucky if you know. I've had a lot of people just like you have. You get a lot of reports. You're really lucky if you've had one of these things walk out in front of you. It's just you know, it's more than 1,000,000 in one shot.
I would like to compare it to other animals that usually avoid people. I mean, mountain lions avoid people, and you rarely see one. I've seen a live one time in the wild in my whole life out there. Yeah. But I know for a fact they're watching me all the time because I find their scat, their footprints, and my game cameras are catching them all the time. Yeah. Same thing with black bear. You know, I've only seen a couple of black bear in my whole entire life. Yeah. I mean, one stalked me, Jenny, and my daughter one year in 2012, and that one came up behind us. But who knows how long it followed us before we noticed it following us? Yeah. You know what I mean? They avoid people and remain unseen. And in the northern part of Utah, there's 5,000 black bear, there's 5,000 mountain lion, and I've only ever seen 1 or 2 of each.
And you never find their bodies.
Now let's take
a bear body, a mountain lion body.
Exactly. Now let's take Bigfoot. I don't know. Let's give a general estimate of maybe 200 in the northern part of Utah, and they want to avoid people. I mean, they're almost 100 times rarer than a mountain lion or a bear, and their intent is to avoid mankind.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see the logistics.
Well,
of
I've seen
Bigfoot
two
sighting.
bear. I've seen two bear in Idaho in the last 7 years. One was at a distance, and one was within several feet. I pulled my bear spray out, but it just didn't seem to be bothered by me and just moseyed off. But and I had my son with me, who was fairly young at the time, and so I was concerned about him. But this bear just stuck its nose in the air, sniffed the air a little bit, turned and walked away. It wasn't interested in us at all. And you know, we have a lot of bear here also, and I never see them. I know they're around. I hike into the areas where they build their dens, but I don't see them. Like you, I'll find their tracks. I'll find some scat, but I usually don't see them. Did I tell you about the Cape Horn Lakes, not too far from Stanley, the Bradley Boy Scout camp area?
No.
Yeah, you mentioned that one time.
We had a rock thrown at us, Jen and I, in our kayaks, and this, I saw it just before it hit the water. I would guess it 20, 25 pounds. The trail that runs beside the lake, we were probably only about 15 to 20 feet off the trail in the water. We were done fishing. We were just coasting, and there was no wind or nothing, so we really weren't moving at any speed. It was more of just sitting than even moving. And this just came through the tree line, and she was on my right side, and it splashed right beside her kayak. I just happened to look over and see that rock hit the water. And we had been the only ones out there all day. I turned my kayak. I'm scanning the tree line. The trail that runs beside the lake right there, it's just 6 inches wide maybe. You know, you can see it. There was no one on the trail. You know, I didn't know what to make of that. I turned to Jen and I said, "Are you kidding me? Did this just happen? Seriously?" And you know, that's one place where her and I have actually had quite a bit of Bigfoot activity. In fact, one of those tracks that you pulled up is up on the mountain above that lake.
Which one is it? Let me bring them up.
Nope. Nope. It's the one that we talked about with Derek a little while ago. That one right there.
Okay. And that's in the general area where you guys had a rock thrown at you in your kayak?
That is on top of the mountain, directly across from where the rock come from. Yeah, that is actually the top. There's a couple of ways to get up on that mountain, and it's just a ton of deadfall up there. And actually that day that I found that track, it was raining again. In fact, I think I was either put on my rain gear or was getting ready to throw my rain gear on. She was out on the lake kayaking. She was fishing. And so I said, well, you're going fishing, I'm going up on the mountain. And while I was up on the mountain, she was sitting on, she was finished fishing. She had pulled her kayak out, loaded it up, and was sitting on the tailgate of our car. And she was reading a book. And while she was reading that book, she heard footsteps in the gravel behind the car, and then she could also smell it. And she, you know, we had walkie-talkies on. She radioed me and said that she had heard something walking in the gravel behind her. She could smell it, and of course, I came down the mountain, and there wasn't anything around. But she described it as a Bigfoot experience that she had.
Yeah, when you get that unmistakable smell, and you've pretty much been around every animal in the area and know what they smell like, and you get that musky BO from a Bigfoot, you know, it does feel like a Bigfoot experience, especially when you can hear the activity or you're finding stuff like this, you know.
Well, she's not a Bigfooter, but through me, she's aware of Bigfoot. Now we had an area 2 years ago where her and I would hike, and in this one area we would smell it almost every time we gone through there. This last summer, it's gone. There's no smell. Right. But with that area, we just so she knows the smell, and that's what she told me when I got back to the car, that she believed she was smelling a Bigfoot, and she could hear it. It was walking on the other side of the car, just close to her. But that same area, early in the year, it was May. We had our snow melted here. This was 2-3 years ago. The snow melted early. In fact, it was in the 60s the last 2 weeks of February. So we went to Stanley, and we went out to the Cape Horn Lakes, and our goal was to fish that lake. We like fishing that lake. There's usually no one out there, and we've just got the whole thing to ourselves, and we like the brook trout that you catch out of it. So when we got off the highway, it's a 6-mile drive back to the lake. The road still had several feet of snow on it, the dirt road that leads back to the lake. So we parked the car and we decided we're walking it. Some of the snow was hard packed and you could walk on. Every now and then you'd post hole through. But we got back to the lake. The lake was clear. The trail running beside the lake was clear. So we planned to hike. And this was our first Bigfoot activity on this lake that we experienced. We got about halfway down the lake, and we were just looking for a spot to fish, and we heard something just growling at us. Sounded very grizzly bearish, just a horrible growl, and then clack, 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 banging sticks together. All we had on us, I wasn't armed that day, I didn't bring my sidearm, we both had bear spray, we both looked at each other, our mouths dropped open, and we both just immediately pulled our bear spray out. And we're looking up, and beside the trail, the mountainside just goes up. It just goes up. It's kind of steep, and it's all forested, so we're scanning the tree line, we're looking up the hill, and we're listening to this, and we decide to back out. So we back out to the trailhead, and we thought, why don't we just fish the front of the lake here, right here, and you know, if that was a bear, you know, maybe it'll leave us alone. And then we did a few casts and realized it was too shallow right there, so we said, well, let's just go. So instead of taking the road back, which kind of S's to get in there, we decided to go over the mountain because it's all sagebrush and there's not a lot of snow. It was just in patches, and we thought it'd be just an easier route than walking through that snow again. So that's the way we gone. And when we'd gotten on top of the mountain, I found a teepee structure up there. And so we're checking this thing out. I'm actually shooting some video, taking some pics of it, and we heard this thing growling in the tree line behind us. So we took off down the other side of the mountain, and along the way we're leaving piles of food that we had in our packs, hoping whatever this is will stop and eat the food along the way and give us more give us a chance to get more distance between us and it. It stalked us for about 4 miles before we didn't notice it anymore. But that was the first time that we had experienced Bigfoot activity out there. You know, I didn't even have a video camera with me. I could have recorded all that. But that is close to what's called the Bradley Boy Scout camp. There was an old man, old Norm, ran the Bradley Boy Scouts camp throughout I believe it was the late 60s, early 70s, all the way into the 80s. And this man supposedly had Polaroid pictures of Bigfoots and cement casts. And there are BFRO reports online where you can go look at Bigfoot reports around the Cape Horn Lakes. Back in June of 1987, there were 3 deaf Boy Scouts that were hiking. There are 3 lakes. Cape Horn Lakes, there's a series of 3 lakes. They were hiking between the 2nd and 3rd lake, and one crossed the trail in front of them. And what's really interesting is these were 12-year-old boys that saw this thing, but they made their reports as grown men. So what does that tell you? If it was just young boys' imaginations running wild here, they wouldn't later in life, as men in their 40s, make a Bigfoot report about this. And what's really interesting about this Bigfoot report is he said it was massive, yet he said it was very big, yet agile, and he said what was most impressive about it were the size of its legs. He says its legs were just enormous. And it just crossed the trail in front of them, and you know, they looked for it. After they saw it, they went and they were looking the direction it gone. They never saw it again. But it's really amazing. After we had that first encounter out there a few years ago, we would go out there quite a bit, and every time we would go out there, at a minimum, we would have a tree pushed over, at a minimum. And that's why I started searching the mountain and really doing a search in that area. And I haven't covered all the ground I'd like to cover out there yet, but I have covered some. Looking forward to watching you out there this season. We have so many places we want to go and so little time. We sit there and we plan out in our minds and talk about, you know, hey, we're going to go here, there, this and that, and the season just
whizzes
sober.
by, and you just don't make it everywhere you want to. But in the off season, you're like, hey, that.
I went out there twice. I went out there twice to make a video on the 3 Deaf Boy Scout sighting, and every time I went out there, it poured down rain. So, you know, I had to turn around and leave. But I was planning on making a video about their sighting, and couldn't do it. Not yet, anyway.
Well, that's probably our hour right there. Does anybody have any closing questions for Anthony before we wrap up?
Nope, just want to comment. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Anthony. Appreciate all your stories and your expertise on this subject.
Well, hey, you're welcome. I'd love to hear more of, you know, the 3 of you. I'd love to hear more of your stories. You know, I really would. It's a fun subject to talk about, and it was nice meeting you, Derek.
You too.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to get together with you and your wife. It'd be a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah, look forward to it.
We were really disappointed about the fires last year. We picked a weekend with you last in the fall, and the fires and the smokes were so bad that we decided not to go out there. But we want to get out there and check out some of these spots that you've been Bigfooting in. We love Bigfooting in Idaho. As a matter of fact, it's one of our favorite places to Bigfoot outside of Utah. We know it's a Bigfoot sighting hotspot, and you're right in the middle of all that. We appreciate you being on the show, and we would like to have you back again and listen to some of the experiences that you have over the summer, and hopefully we can shoot a Bigfoot expedition video with you this summer.
Oh, that'd be a lot of fun. That'd be great.
As well.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Go check out Anthony's YouTube, and if you haven't checked out ours, go and check out ours at RMSO Bigfoot. Anthony's YouTube is Anthony Mountain Goat Moffett Bigfoot, I believe it's called, and you guys just keep on watching.
Because we're going to keep on squatching.
That's right.